Hi, everyone. Thanks for showing up on a Friday at noon, or at least noon Eastern time. I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Road to College and the Paying for College 101 Facebook group. Let me admit a few more people who are just coming in. So today I wanted to show you our new insights, which we're trying to launch in the next hopefully week or two. I apologize. It looks like there's a little bit of a delay in my video. I'm not actually in my normal location, so I hope that the video stream works okay. So I wanted to see who is going to show up today, to really decide what to talk about. I could just go straight in and just show you insights, but I didn't know if anybody was here with class of 2026, class of 2027, if you want to learn a little bit about merit scholarships. So if you can put in the chat what year of high school your child is graduating, that would be helpful. If you want to learn a little bit about merit scholarships, if you want to learn a little bit about common data set, I can quickly go through those pieces and then show you insights. Okay. So I'm going to do a little bit of both. I really apologize. I think my video is going in and out. I mean, it's here, but it's jerking around a little bit. So I'm going to jump between a few different presentations just to cover a little bit of different topics. And I won't spend that much time. I mean, we'll spend some time on those topics, but then I'll also switch. I'll try and by 12:30, I'll switch and show you the new insights. Oh, okay. Thank you. Somebody said my voice is coming through, even though the video is moving around and not as clear. So at least that is worth, and that's better. Okay. So let me share some slides. And then we can get going. Hold on. Okay. Let's share. Okay. I am just going to jump to, talking about what merit scholarships are, and I'll show you some examples. And then I'm going to jump to another presentation I have that talks about the common data set, and then we'll go to insights. So for those of you I saw with, let me get my chat back up. Sorry. Oh, there it is. There was class of 2027. I even saw class of 2030. So glad you're here. Merit scholarships, and you might have heard a lot more about them in the news recently, are a way that colleges use their money to attract what they would consider maybe a higher quality student, a student with stronger academics that might normally not consider attending the school. So it is, quite honestly, in the most basic form of a way of a discount on the tuition. Merit scholarships are not dependent on need-based aid. That's why they are such an important tool for the family, which we always talk about, that's kind of caught in the middle, who isn't going to get need-based aid. Maybe it probably hasn't saved enough to fully pay for college outright and needs some sort of help. And so the best way that they can find that help is to find a college where their student is going to get merit scholarships, and that's going to reduce your cost. As I mentioned, the colleges are usually using this type of discount to attract a stronger student. So that's one of the ways that I'm going to show you how you can search for those colleges. You want to find a college where your students' academics, particularly their test score and their GPA, kind of put them at the higher percentile of students that might normally go to that college. And usually the higher up in that percentile, the more merit scholarships that school is going to be willing to offer in the range that they generally offer. What's also really important about merit scholarships is that they tend to be renewable. So if your student is awarded the merit scholarship as an incoming freshman, they will continue to receive that scholarship sophomore, junior, and senior year, which is, comforting. And that is different compared to need-based aid. Need-based aid is reviewed every year. That's why you have to fill out the FAFSA, or you might have to update a CSS profile, because colleges are checking to see, has your financial situation changed, and therefore will we change how much need-based aid we give you. So that's the trade-off between need-based aid. It is a strong potential to change every year if your financial situation is going to change, but merit scholarships, whatever your student is offered at the beginning, will remain through their 4 years. And then the only other kind of caveat of a merit scholarship that we like to point out is that a lot of them are based on a GPA requirement. So right now, if you're searching, I wouldn't worry about it. But when your student is awarded a merit scholarship, you want to understand what that GPA requirement is. I've seen a whole range. I've seen pretty easy GPA requirement where, every student is going to pass it and not have a problem. But I've also seen merit scholarships where the GPA can be 3.5, which, for a student who is transitioning from high school to college, and even though they might be a smart, strong student, could be a struggle, particularly in that first year, maybe to get that 3.5, and also depending on how hard their major is. So you want to feel comfortable. Well, A, you want to know what that requirement is, and then B, feel comfortable with your student that they can achieve it, because the worst situation is where you and your student accept a college, and that college is affordable because your student is getting merit scholarships, and then somewhere in those 4 years, your student loses their merit scholarship. So all of a sudden, that affordable college became much more expensive because you no longer have the discount. So I'm going to quickly go through these types of merit scholarships. Then I'm going to switch to common data set, and then we'll look at the tool. So this is just an easy classification. It's not an official classification for merit scholarships, but basically they fall into 3 categories: the automatic, competitive, and talent. Automatic is what the name says, in that, it actually has 2 meanings. And I realized this just the other month when somebody was discussing this on the Paying for College 101 Facebook group, because there was confusion. So we mean automatic here in that when your student applies to the college, they don't need to do anything else. That college is automatically looking at all of the applications that come through and seeing if they would be eligible for a merit scholarship. So it's basically they fall into an automatic process of automatically applying to a merit scholarship at that school. The other version of automatic is that if your student has a certain grade point or test score, then they are automatically awarded a merit scholarship. Some colleges have that. Those colleges share that information in a grid or a chart on their website. I'm going to show you an example of that. The other colleges where your student their application might automatically be reviewed for a merit scholarship, that's the automatic part, but they may not have automatic merit scholarship ranges. So you just might not know what merit scholarship specifically your student would receive, but you know that their application is going to be automatically reviewed. The second is competitive. Big distinction here is that your student's most going to have to fill out additional application, potentially additional essay. There's usually different deadlines associated with this type of merit scholarship, and because they're filling out additional information, particularly essay, these merit scholarships tend to be competitive. They're being reviewed by a group of admissions officers or potentially professors at the college, and so you should apply your student. And some colleges actually ask your student to apply to a competitive merit scholarship after they have sent in their regular application. So other colleges share all of the competitive and deadline information ahead of time. So I wish there was an easy way to know all of this information across all of the colleges in terms of who does what, but we are at least trying to tell you the different types of merit scholarships that are out there so you can be aware and make sure you're looking for all the information that might be available. And a lot of it is on the college website or asking the admissions office directly. And then the last is, as the name implies, talent. It's going to be based on, something special that your student has or wants to apply to. It could be, talent for music, art, theater. A lot of times there's, again, additional paperwork, additional application that needs to go in. Usually there's could be an audition, or there could be a deadline that a portfolio needs to be sent into. So what's important across all of these types of merit scholarships are deadlines. The deadlines can vary for merit scholarships versus, a regular application deadline. So you and your student really need to be aware of that. Honestly, during the summer is the perfect time to be gathering all of this deadline information, put it in a spreadsheet, a tracker, so that you and your student know which deadlines your student is working towards. Okay, I'll show you quickly some examples of the different types, and then we'll switch to common data set. So this is an example, actually, when I made a distinction between two different types of automatic. This college, Miami University, fits both types of automatic. Your student is automatically considered, and if your student fits into one of these ranges, they're automatically going to be given a merit scholarship. So I just kind of, for interest's sake, show these grids going back to 2020 when I started tracking Miami University. Obviously, that was before the pandemic. Miami University, at that point, you had to have a specific GPA and ACT, SAT to be awarded their merit scholarships. But why I like showing the progression of the charts, so 2020 is in the bottom right, and then it goes to 2021, 2024, and then 2025, is that you can see that the college changed their GPA requirement. Obviously, they went test optional, as a slew of other colleges did. So they didn't list a test score requirement on here, but they altered their GPA requirement because they, probably because they couldn't rely on ACT, SATs anymore. So they increased what the GPA was that students needed to have for each of these ranges. And you can see 2021, they increased the GPA amount. And then in 2024, they increased it. From 2024 to 2025, they kept things steady. But to tell you the truth, we don't know yet what the grid's going to look like for the next crop of students that are going to be applying and starting college in 2026. I didn't check their website right before I got on. Maybe they have it on their website, but if not, I'm sure in the next month or two, they will be updating this information. Or even if they're going to keep it the same, obviously they will just retitle it and say this is for freshmen starting in 2026. But the point is, criteria does change slightly year to year. Okay, so somebody's also commenting that Miami also has competitive scholarships as well. The other thing I like to point out about Miami University is they're actually a little unusual because they are using a weighted GPA, but at least they tell you there's a little asterisk, number one, under next to the weighted, and they actually say it's a weighted high school GPA. So at least at that point, if you're using your students' weighted GPA to compare against these ranges, that you're using the right number. A lot of other schools tend to use unweighted GPA just because they feel it's a more apples to apples comparison. Every school does their weighting differently. So what's important here is that what number is being used and what's being shown if they have any sort of grids or charts on their website. I have absolutely, unfortunately, had situations where students were using their GPA. They were using the weighted GPA. They were comparing it against the college's chart. The college was using unweighted GPA, and so they thought that they were going to get a higher merit scholarship than they were actually awarded. And it was basically because of this mismatch of information. Yes, weighted is only for core classes. Okay, so competitive merit scholarships. So two examples I show here. The one on the left is from University of Southern California. The one on the right is from Boston University. The reason why I show the one on the left is that their deadline for merit scholarships is different than their regular decision deadline. So USC's deadline, if you want to be considered and actually for merit scholarships, your student needs to send in their application by November 1st. A few years ago, USC actually also began having early action. Early action deadline is November 1st. So basically they are saying, if you want to be considered for merit scholarships, you need to apply early action. Not so horrible, but you just need to know that deadline is what they're using. You can apply regular decision. Your student can apply regular decision. That would be December 1st, but they will not be considered for merit scholarships. So here's a really important example where the deadline makes a difference. And if your student didn't know the deadline, and they were applying to the school, they would miss out on any consideration for merit scholarships. The example from, skipped ahead. The example from Boston University is also that they have a December 1st deadline for merit scholarships. The other reason why I showed Boston University is they are test optional, but they are kind of giving you a hint as to the caliber of the student that they are looking for merit scholarships. It says those scores are not required, and there are definitely students who apply test optional and don't and receive merit scholarships, but they're kind of sharing with you that they're looking for a caliber of student that would generally score above a 1500 or a 33 and above on an ACT. So they're giving you a clue as to what type of student that they consider that they would give merit scholarships to. So again, kind of looking through the college website, gathering as much information as you can, particularly for a class of 2026 over this summer, is really important. Okay, I'm gonna jump to a different presentation to talk about the common data set, which is where you can find a lot of the information that I'm talking about, at least for the percentiles and average merit award that is shared. So let me just skip out of this presentation and go to a different one. Okay, so who is familiar with the term common data set, and who's actually checked out a common data set? Anybody want to share in the comments? Okay, no one? Okay. I need education. What it is? Okay, fine. That's fine. That's no problem. So merit scholarships are, I'm sorry, common data set is, it's really let me see if I have the slide. Yes, it's an effort that was started by US News and World Report. It was a way for them to gather all the information that they wanted to use for their ranking purposes. I actually don't know what year this was started, but it was definitely started, 15 or so or more years ago. I'm going to pull up an actual common data set to show you, but the name is exactly why they called it this. So if you look at, every college is given this format of the data that they are trying to collect. it's common data, and the colleges share it in a common way. So that's why they call it the common data set. The other two organizations that use the common data set or have access to the gathering of it is the College Board and a private company called Peterson's, who compiles all of the common data set from all of the colleges, and then they license it out to the college search website. So all of the college search websites that you might see on the internet, most likely, I mean, honestly, I don't know of any other source unless they're gathering it themselves directly, which is a big effort, are licensing the data from Peterson's. We license the data from Peterson's as well. You know, it's the only place where you can get a compilation of data across all the different colleges. Anybody can go directly to a college and search for the common data set. We're going to pull one up, but to see the data across all colleges, you actually have to go to a website, and then you know, they may or may not show all of the data points that you need or you feel are worthwhile. So that's what makes the common data set really, really helpful on an individual level, but it's harder to get your hands around all the data that you might need. Okay, let's just let me just explain one thing about the timing of the common data set. And actually, I should update this because I think the most recent one is out. So the one that's out there right now is called the 2024-2025 common data set. But the data that is collected for the common data set is collected for the students who are enrolling in the fall of that academic year. So this past fall was the fall of 2024. And so that's why the common data set would be for common data set 2024-2025, because it's covering that academic year. And those freshmen who started in the fall of 2024, right, were going through the admissions process that started in the fall of 2023 and ended in the spring of 2024. So, you know, I just want to kind of give relevance to that. So when you look at the common data set, you're not going to get the common data set with admissions information from students that just went through it this past season, which would have been 2024-2025. It's about a year old, but it's the best data anybody can get. You know, data just takes a while for colleges to pull together and then share out. But I just want to kind of give you relevance as to what you're looking at. And another big source of data is actually from the government. It's called IPEDS. They have a you know, a good consumer-facing website called College Navigator. Unfortunately, that data is even older than the common data set. Not that I don't think the common data set is old data. I'm just, you know, telling you the timing of it. But the IPEDS data tends to be sometimes 6 or 10 months even older than that, just because of working with the government and the updating of it. And unfortunately, I have to say, I guess time will tell over the next year. I'm not quite sure what's happening with IPEDS and with all of the government cuts, I don't even know how many people are left working on it and what the accuracy of it's going to be going forward. I guess we will just have to check and see. But, you know, unfortunately, that was, and maybe right now still is, a good source of data. Just don't know what the future of that one's going to be with everything happening. Okay. So here's an example, and I'm going to click out and we'll pull up two lanes. You can go and Google the college name and the words common data set, and you should find a page on a college's website that kind of looks like this, where they are showing you the most recent common data set, and then they're showing you common data sets from the past year. So let's jump out of this, and I will do that. We're going to look at an actual common data set kind of quickly, and then I'll jump to insights. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to Google Tulane University common data set, and we should get the page that I just showed you. Okay, so there's the most recent one, 2024, 2025. Let's pull it up. Can everybody, I just want to make sure, because I've switched around, can everybody see this? Am I sharing the right screen? Okay, thank you. So the reason why I personally think the common data set data is what everybody should be looking at. It is, I mean, it's the best that we can get our hands on. Can I maximize my screen? Yep, no problem. Okay, is that helpful?
Sorry, you're also sharing like two, you're sharing
Oh,
the entire screen instead of just the one white.
thank you. Thank you. I will fix that. Okay, this should be better. Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. Okay. So there's a lot of information here. Some of it, you might just find interesting, maybe not useful. I mean, a lot of it is very useful. The reason why I'm sharing or want to walk through and teach you about the common data set is our insights tool takes what we think are the most valuable uh, pieces of data for the common data set and obviously does all the work for you so you don't have to gather this information from individual colleges, and then makes it much easier to be filtering through and create different criteria that you want to create to search the colleges. So it's important to kind of know the foundation of where the data is from and what the data is, and then it's easier to understand the value of the insights tool. So they are different sections of the common data set. They're numbered by like A, B, C, that type of stuff. I'm going to, again, jump around and just point out what I think is most valuable. At the beginning, this is just basic information about the college and, links and addresses. Section B, which we come to immediately, is actually a good, valuable section. It's about enrollment. And again, if you go back to what I said before, this is enrollment of students who are starting at Tulane in the fall of 2024. So actually, see, they are confirming that right there in the first sentence. And so one other thing I'll just mention, the reason why there is this lag time, right? Just think about it, common sense wise, is these students start in the fall of 2024. The college has to wait to see, obviously, who actually enrolls. And then it takes them a while to kind of gather their information. And it's called the Office of Institutional Research, who's responsible for gathering this information. They are going out to a lot of other individual offices within the campus to pull the information together. It's kind of like, you can see this is like a layering or laddering effect of pulling all this data together. And it just takes several months to do it. Usually, colleges don't have their latest common data set public until, honestly, the good ones might have it in March or April. We're now in June. Not every college has their 2024, 2025 common data set public yet. Tulane was actually a little on the early side. I think they came out in April. But you'll be seeing, if you Google the schools that you're interested in, some might have the most recent and some might still have the previous one. And that doesn't mean that they are slow. It's just kind of the normal timeline is that the majority of colleges don't share their new common data set, usually until, June, May or June, sometimes even July. And then from a website, like a search website perspective, we and Peterson's doesn't compile all of the data until usually July or August. We'll get multiple updates. So August is a big month when a lot of websites get their latest data across all colleges. Again, I'm just kind of giving you maybe too much background information because I don't think that personally the data changes a ton from year to year. Yes, if you looked over trends 5 years, 10 years, you will see big shifts in the numbers. But if you compare 2024's common data set for Tulane versus the previous one, you're not going to see major shifts. So I only say that is that if you're searching and you're using what you think is the 2023 common data set, you're still in good shape. Okay, so enrollment, this section B, it breaks out, obviously, how many students have actually enrolled, undergraduate, graduate, male versus female. You can see, and I just want to point out in Tulane, not bad, but just something to realize. Obviously, they have a lot more women enrolling than men. I mean, that's actually a trend generally in higher ed, but I've seen it's much more pronounced at Tulane, where the number of women either applying is just much higher than men. I point that out because if your student is male, they probably have a little bit of an edge applying to Tulane, because Tulane wants to increase their gender ratio. Okay, so that's enrollment. And then they break it out by ethnicity. Okay, and then we're gonna scroll a little further to the next section, which is this is the admission section. So I just showed you those are the students who got enrolled, who enrolled. This section is the admissions data for the students who were just enrolled. So here you can see breakout by men versus women and a total of who applied. So again, you see that the number of men who applied is, probably is 40% less than the number of women who applied. And then you see the actual admit rates, again, broken out by gender. And then, this number of who enrolled probably matches the section before that we just looked at. They also share how many students applied who are in-state versus out-of-state. Quite honestly, it doesn't matter that much for Tulane since it's a private university, but for a lot of the flagship state universities, particularly University of Virginia, Michigan, University of Texas, where they have mandates about the number of students who they have to take in-state versus out-of-state, this is important information to know and look at. Somebody's asking, will these demographics continue to be tracked with the new executive order? I think yes. I mean, my opinion is yes. I haven't heard anything that says that they wouldn't. Again, this is private data. This is not, I mean, the government, some of this data might be sent to the government. The government can decide whether or not they still want to track it, but common data set data is private. So from my understanding right now, colleges can track what they want and share it with private organizations. Okay, another piece of a little tidbit should not really impact your searching, your college searching and what colleges a student applied to, but when your student gets their decision, or potentially if they're waitlisted, you can go to a college's common data set and just see historically how many students were put on the wait list and how many students accepted and decided to stay on the wait list and how many students were ultimately accepted and enrolled off the wait list. So this data definitely changes year to year, and I can't make any promises that just because Tulane did this in the 2024 admission cycle that they will do it going forward. But if you look back at a few cycles, some colleges might have a trend in how they put students on a wait list. So this is really only valuable or important if your student's in this situation of being put on the wait list and you want to decide what you want to do. Okay, let me scroll a little bit further. This section C7, I think actually it's important. It's called admission factors, and it breaks out the factors which are academic and non-academic. I'll tell you why I think it's important. To me, this is a little bit like a rubric of what the admissions office is using to evaluate your student's application. So they're telling you ahead of time in the admission, in this common data set, what they think is very important, considered and not considered. And some of the things that are considered very important are across the board. So almost every school is going to say, obviously, the rigor of your students' high school transcript is important. That's what this first one is. And usually, the academic GPA is important. Honestly, some schools now are saying standardized in the past and like, before the pandemic, or this might be different for a school that is test required. They would probably say standardized test scores are very important. That's why they became test required versus the test optional schools, which are claiming they're just important. There will be test optional schools that will list standardized test schools as just being considered. So to me, this line of standardized test scores, depending on whether a test optional school marks it as important versus considered, also gives you a clue as to how much weight they're really going to put on the test scores, even though they are considered test optional, because we've seen a lot of schools, and we will call it test optional-ish. They have that label as test optional, but the majority of the students that they accept and enroll tend to have a test score. So this is where you can do a little bit of digging and maybe put some pieces of the puzzle together. The other area of non-academic where I think it's important to look at these factors is this last one that says level of applicant's interest. Another phrase that we use for that is called demonstrated interest. And so Tulane is saying, I've never really honestly seen a school say demonstrated interest is the very important, but Tulane is saying it's important. And so a lot of other schools will say it's considered, and some schools will say it's actually not even considered. And what this means is that they are, kind of as the words imply, they are tracking your students' interest. So, and they're doing that by the best means they can. So they are looking at, did your student open up emails? Did they respond? Did they show up at events? Did they potentially message a admissions officer? Did you come visit? So Tulane is tracking whatever they can get their hands on to give a sense of how interested this student is. Because at some point, if it comes down to comparing students and maybe everything is equal, but one student has showed a much stronger interest in the school, then Tulane is going to take that factor into consideration, and that would probably tip that student over into being accepted versus the other student. So again, not every college has this as a criteria or even think it's important, but if a college does think it's important, I would make sure that my student is doing something to show that they are interested. And actually, we have a different tip sheet I could share. We can put it in a follow-up email that has all these different ideas of different ways that your student can demonstrate interest to a college. So I'm trying to think what else is here. Well, actually, here's a very interesting thing. Tulane is saying volunteer work is very important to them. Another college might not mark that so high up. So knowing that Tulane is viewing volunteer work as important, that might impact maybe what your student highlights in their activities on the Common App, or even what they write an essay about. So someone's asking, are all common data sets from schools the same, i.e. data, format, and information? Yes, that's why it's called common data set. In fact, if you pull up another school's common data set, you will most likely see the identical format. They are definitely all labeled in the same sections, like section C, section H. I would say maybe 5% of schools show it differently because they think that they might feel like they can present it with the information maybe is easier to look at, but it's a small number of students of schools that kind of go against the grain of showing it like this. Majority of colleges show it exactly like we're looking at it. Okay, let me keep going. Here's another interesting piece of data, and I'm pointing it out because this is new data which we pulled into Insights. This actually wasn't always here. Maybe this was a few years ago with the whole push towards test optional. The common data set added this question about how many students who are enrolled have submitted their SAT or ACT scores. So this isn't the full picture. The ideal information and the ideal question would be how many students who applied with a test score or not. But this is, helps. This is saying of the students who actually enrolled, how many submitted their test score during the application process. So you can only imagine, that if these are the numbers of students who were accepted and enrolled and had an SAT score, then the likelihood is that the number of students that applied with an SAT score and were accepted were probably higher than this. We don't know how much higher. So you can see, and this is actually interesting here that more students submitted the ACT than they did the SAT. I was looking at the numbers that we have since we brought this in, this data point, we brought this into our Insights tool. And the interesting thing, kind of looking across all colleges, were that more students with SATs submitted their scores than ACTs. But, but the point is that you can now get a glimpse to see number of students who are attending that college and how many of them actually submitted their SATs. Okay. Would you have enough time to review the new? Yes. Yes. I'll jump right now to the Insights tool. Let me just see this question. I'm in New Orleans and can tell you that showing demonstrated interest in applying ED to Tulane is definitely important. I've seen students who are double legacies with amazing stats and applications get rejected, likely because they didn't visit or apply. Thank you for sharing that, Julie. And that just, to me, double enforces the value of looking at the common data set. And if a college is sharing that information on their common data set, then that means they're using it. So, do this research and then make sure you follow it. Okay, I will skip. So there's a ton of all this information. One other section, because this is information that we use in Insights because we think it's important, is section H. Section H is all about, here it is, financial aid information provided to students. It includes need-based aid and merit scholarship aid. And this is kind of where, the money sits. So this section tells you what percent of need a college meets. So that's a term that you might, depending on what your SAI or student aid index is, you might have a gap in terms of what the college's cost of attendance is. It might be 60,000, your SAI is 30,000. That means that there's 30,000 of unmet need that you're going to have to figure out how to pay for. You have to figure out how to pay for your SAI in addition. And some colleges will say, we will meet 100%. We will cover 100% of what your unmet need is. That's called, your demonstrated aid with need-based aid, and other schools might only cover 50% or 70%. So that's an important number. If you potentially might get need-based aid, you want to know what that number is. This other section also shares about merit scholarships. So here it is, number of students in, so basically the average dollar amount of need-based aid that students who didn't have any, were not going to be awarded need-based aid. If they got merit scholarships, the average was 21,000. That meant that some got a little bit more than 21,000, some got less. So we use this number, that's the average merit award. We also calculate what percentage of students who don't, who won't get need-based aid. So what percentage of students who are eligible for merit scholarships actually got merit scholarships. So that's an important number to look at. Okay. So I'm going to jump now to showing you Insights. So just so you know, this is still in our development environment. It might be a little slow because there's some developers working on it, but I think you'll get the gist. Okay. I'll make this a little larger as well. So here's the first change is we've made a dashboard of lots of information to help you through the process. The first is this section up here on the upper right called My Road. So based upon your year of college, high school graduation, I should change this to 2026, but that we kind of share with you our most important content that we think you should be looking at, making sure you understand to get through that year. This will change. So meaning if you're of a class of 2026, 7 and you join Insights. So we're going to show you, based on your student being, in this case, a rising junior, we're going to show you a certain number or certain topics. And then as your student becomes a rising senior, these topics are going to change because each year what we think you should focus on is a little different. So these are just links to content that we think is helpful to you. Actually, I would use it as a little bit of a checklist and make sure that you understand all these topics, for your family in the year, kind of depending on when your student's graduating high school. Okay, the other sections down here are lists and all the different lists that you can create. And I'm going to show you how you can go and create those lists. Then it moves to when you've decided on when your students decided on what the colleges is that they want to apply to, we move those colleges to the application section, which is just a little bit more focused on the things and the requirements that your student's going to need to apply to that college. So we obviously list all the deadlines, so you can keep track of that. We'll list whether or not supplemental essays are required, deadline for financial aid, and then there's some sections on comments if you want to keep track of personal comments related to your student in that particular college. So, and then finally, when you get offers, you can then enter in your offers. That's this section here. And then you'll be able to, if you're your student is a high school senior, you'll be able to compare your offers to other students who have shared offers for the same colleges. And if you're a paid user of Insights, you'll be able to see this offer information for all colleges for all years that we've collected the data for. And then what we also did, which this was a little bit of a nuisance for people who were members, is that, but now this is much better. We've included a section about our library and going to recordings much more easily. So here you can quickly see all the different recordings we have. We've categorized them. Some recordings are free, so anybody can create an account on Insights. There'll be some of these recordings and tip sheets, which I'll show you. These are some of the tip sheets down here, which are going to be available for free users, and some content and tip sheets, which we think are more valuable, are only going to be for paid users. And that will be identified with a little, label that says upgrade. So here you can click on a video, watch the video right here. And as we create new content, we will just be updating this library. And then the other two sections here is if you want any additional one-on-one help, it's a link to all of our services and the different one-on-one pieces that you get. And then this last section are the partners who we work with across various industries. We work with Summit Prep for test prep, and we work with a lot of lenders if you get to the point of having to borrow money. We work with Mama Bear for legal forms and Grad Guard for tuition insurance. So it just kind of honestly makes all of the information and the links that you need easier and consolidated into one spot. So let's go back and do Discover. That's kind of like my favorite thing. And I'm going to show you the different capabilities that we have. So similar to what we have today, you'll get this like spreadsheet view of all the colleges, and this is all the data that we have on the colleges. We broke them up into smaller chunks to maybe make it easier to look at. R2C picks are what we think the most valuable and important data points are. A school profile is kind of all the generic stuff about the demographics of the school, men versus women, links to a virtual tour. Academics are everything, related to the GPA, test scores. Admission is obviously, all the early decision, regular decision, admit rates. Financial is related to the merit scholarships and need-based aid. And debt is looking at what percentage of students have debt with the federal government, have it with private loans, and parents, what percentage of parents are taking out the Parent Plus loan. So you can look at these chunks of data of data, or you can just leave it the way it is. And then filters. I think this is really kind of much easier and a lot more flexible to be searching. So we defaulted what we thought were some of the most frequently used data fields. Obviously, things related to major, state, region, cost of attendance. That we highlighted the 75th SAT and ACT percentiles because those are important to be searching by if you're trying to find schools that can offer your student merit scholarships, GPA. So these are by default the ones that we listed, but you can add any column here if there's something else you want to include to search by. So for example, here is the field about percent of students submitting ACT scores. So that was that data that I showed you on the common data set. We don't know if everybody wants to search by that or filter by that, but if you do, you just add it to your list, and that becomes a filter that you can now use. So something we do not have filters for automatic merit and national merit scholarships. No, we don't have it yet. We have a filter that shows whether or not a school offers full tuition or full ride scholarships, but not national merit scholarships. And the reason we don't have the auto merit is honestly, it just changes so much year to year about which schools provide automatic merit that I'd rather people search using the common data set information. Yes, so this is the new version. It is not live yet. We are hoping to get it live either end of next week. If not next week, then definitely the beginning of the following week. So we're just giving people a sneak preview of what this looks like. It is not live yet. You cannot find this, but you will very soon. Okay, so let's do a search. Here's an example, and this is also pretty valuable. Now I can kind of like if you see these options, I can say, what if I was very specific and I want to find all the colleges that cost $55,000? Okay, I could do that. I can find all the colleges that cost over $55,000. I can provide all the colleges that are equal to $55,000 and less than. So you have a lot of filtering options here. I can put in a range. Let's just make up a range. I'm going to say I want to find all the colleges, these are the private colleges, that cost between $40,000 and $60,000. Because maybe, that's my budget. So I can put that in. Then I want to find of these colleges, and remember these filters are additive. So it's like the first one is I want to find colleges that cost between $40,000 and $60,000. And then if I add a second filter, and I want to find colleges where my students, where the SAT score in the 75th percentile is between 1,200 and 1,300. Okay, let's just do that. I can apply the filters and then we can kind of keep adding. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I have found 128 results, and you can see that the filter criteria is listed here. 128 colleges that have a cost of attendance between 40 and 60,000, and where the SAT score of the 75th percentile is between 1,200 and 1,300. If I wanted to, I can sort any of these columns now, or maybe I want to put another filter on. So now I can go back. Let's say I actually want to put a filter on of these colleges. I want to know which of these colleges offer merit. So that's what this is, average merit award for freshmen without need. I want to find a college in this segment that offer any sort of merit that's over $5,000. Okay. Oh, I thought that this might narrow it more, but it only narrowed it down. I think we lost 8 colleges. So now I've got 120 colleges that cost between 40 and 60,000, where my students, where the SAT of 1,200 and 1,300 is 75th percentile, and they offer merit of $5,000. So you can see how you can start to narrow this down. I mean, I can go further. What if I knew my student only wants to be in the Northeast? And actually, I kind of like doing this layering effect because you can see which filter kind of, makes an impact. We might find that location is going to cut this down even more. So let's just do region. Let's say I want to find New England. My kids, okay, going to New England, the Mideast, and even the Southeast. And let's find out how many schools kind of fit this criteria. Okay, now we kind of cut it in half. So now there's 66 colleges that fit this criteria. And this is the way you can continue using these filters. And then at any point, you can select whatever colleges from your search that you want to. I'll just go through, select a few colleges, and then you can either add them. You can see I have a lot of lists that I've made. You can add them to an existing list, or you can create a new list with a new name. So that's the way this whole Discover process works. Let me show you, because I do have a lot of lists. When you go to the My List section, this will show you all your lists. And let me pull up here. This is a list I said with colleges with the most merit. I honestly can't remember what the criteria is that I used. And let's scroll through to show some of the compare offers. So I'm going to look at Hofstra. If I scroll through, there's going to be a column. Oh, just so you know that the section that I went through about admissions factors, very important admissions factors, important admission factors, we now included that in here because I think it's important information to look at. And you can search by that. So you can search by show me all the schools that have demonstrated interest as an important admission factor. So again, at least you're aware of which of the schools your students should be demonstrating interest at. But let's continue on. Okay, crowdsourced offers. Let's look at Hofstra's. Okay, so there are 217 crowdsourced offers that we've gotten from Hofstra. You can, and this is probably over several years, you can sort this by academic year. You can actually filter this section and say, I just want to look at the most recent academic year, which would be 2025, 2026. And that's it. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm just looking at all of the offers that were shared for this year. I could, go and look at offers shared from last year. You can look at what state the students are from. I can now sort by EFC or SAI range. The reason why I like to do that is you want to put yourself in where to something in the range that's most similar to yourself. So if I'm a family that has an SAI that's over, let's see, 60,000. Let's see, where did that go? Okay, so I might want to look at these areas with my SAI is 60,000, 65,000, or even over 80,000, and look at how did my student compare to these students. If the student did not list the SAT or ACT, it meant that they applied test optional. To tell you the truth, and this is a little bit of work, what we still need to do before we go live is that we have GPA information for all the students, so it's not showing up here. So we just have to make sure that this table is being populated fully. But this is really probably one of the most valuable sources of information that people use Insights for, is to see what families and students actually got from the colleges and then how your student compares against it. And to tell you the truth, you can look at the merit amount. It's all kind of within a range. Some students got on the lower end of 35 and other students got closer to 43. Again, that's why there's an average. Some students going to get above, some students going to get below. So if your student had applied to Hofstra and, were close to academically some of the students listed here, and your student got offered 20,000, see, that would be a flag for me. And I would say, hey, that number, it seems way off than what you're giving other students, and I would appeal. So that's one way of using this information. Another way is if you're in the search process, it just kind of validates the merit awards that the college actually offers and to the type of student that they're offering it to. So it is exactly 1 o'clock. I hope that this was helpful. Let me just see what other questions you have. Can we apply the new filters to lists that we already have created? Yes. If you're an existing user, you will automatically obviously get this version of Insights when we go live. You might have to fill out fill out a few more fields in the profile because, oops, okay, not good. Don't look. That was that's why we're not live yet. There's a profile section that and we've made like 1 or 2 fields more required. So if you have an existing account and when we go live, you are going to be prompted to walk through the profile and just add in a few more pieces of data that we didn't ask for in the past. But once you do that, all of your lists will come up and you'll be able to do all this type of filtering to past lists and create new lists. Okay, when we are crossing my fingers, trying to go live by the end of next week. If not next week, it will definitely be the following week. Anywhere where I can track if I visited or plan to visit with notes. Not yet, but we're going to add that back in. So we used to have a field, let me show you. We used to have a field that where you could keep personal notes. We don't have that anymore. I mean, we actually have it on the list. We're going to add it back in, but we actually have a section here now. If you're willing to share a note that anybody can see about the college, you can add that here. You can add it with your name, but there's no pressure. And you can also add it as anonymous. So let's say you visited, what school did I pick? Muhlenberg. You want to share some of your opinions about the visit, about the college. You want to share it with everybody. You can do that here. But in addition, we're going to add in being able to save personal notes that only you would look at. And then the last thing I'll just show for people who are still here is, and we had this in the old version, we're just continuing it. You can share, if you're a paid user, you can share your lists to anybody you want, and you can download your lists with up to 20 data fields, which you can select which data fields you want to download. So hopefully this was helpful. I think you missed this question. How do you set up a dashboard? Oh, with twins. Robin, we are working on having an account where you can have multiple students, but in the interim, honestly, you can only have, you'd have to pay for 2 accounts right now, but you know what, if you email me, I'll give you, and you have 1 paid account, I'll give you a code to have a free second account for your second child. We are working on kind of adding multiple students to a family in their account. We're just not there yet, and we want to go live with what we have. But if you contact me, I'll get you a second account. When we see crowdsourced merit offer for 2025, 2026, are those for students starting in the fall of 2025? No. So let's see. I don't think, let me see. Let me pull one of these up. Let's go to Simmons. So, oh, you know what? Good question. I have to tell you, we'll probably clean this up a little bit. Oh, sorry, academic year. Yes, you're correct. Academic year 2025, 2026. Yes, that is for students who are starting in that year. Yes. So we see crowdsource offers for, yes. So those offers are from the most recent students. Yes, I will share this as a recording. The link to the recording will go out tomorrow. So hope that this was helpful. Feel free to send me any questions. I am going to jump off myself because I have to run to another meeting. But if you don't have a free account or you don't have an Insights account, I think we are sending a special deal to get you signed up in the next few days at a special pricing for the new Insights. And as soon as it goes live, we will let everybody know, definitely within 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone. Take